Well, thanks very much, Will. Good morning, everyone. I'm absolutely delighted to be here with all of you to make a very special announcement, one that I know is good news for the Ontario Liberal Party for sure, but in particular, great news for the hardworking families of Don Valley West, an important riding as they all are, located, of course, in the city of Toronto. I am joined today by Stephanie Bowman. Stephanie is set to become the Ontario Liberal Party standard bearer or flag bearer, our candidate in the riding of Don Valley West, as I mentioned just a second ago, and I couldn't be happier. Stephanie is someone who brings such a wealth of experience. She is an accountant by training. She has a long and distinguished career in finance, and until very recently, she served on the board of the Bank of Canada. She has the skills and the experience, the knowledge, the know-how, and the temperament and the personality to make sure that those hardworking families in Don Valley West have the kind of representation at Queen's Park that they deserve, the kind of representation that they've had now for nearly two decades, with Kathleen Wynne serving as their MPP since 2003. And I just have to say, when Stephanie first indicated that she was prepared to do this, prepared to take on this challenge and join with me and the rest of our growing ranks of candidates to serve the people of her community and to serve at Queen's Park, again, I was absolutely thrilled. Many of you have heard me say for months that, we've learned a lot of lessons during this pandemic. One of the most important lessons that we've learned is that governing this great province of ours takes more than one individual, because all of us together are so much smarter and stronger than just one of us. And that's why it's been so important to me and the rest of our team to build out a team of women and men who come from different careers and different walks of life, who bring experience and energy and enthusiasm, and who are taking on this challenge for the right reasons. And Stephanie absolutely represents all of those incredible characteristics. And I know, as I look at Stephanie, I look at the rest of the women and men who've stepped forward to run, to lead, and to be champions for their respective communities. People like Stephanie, who have that background in finance, individuals from the front lines of healthcare, the front lines of education, small business owners. There is a large and growing team of women and men who understand fundamentally that Ontario is going down the wrong track under the current leadership that we have at Queen's Park. They understand fundamentally that this pandemic that's been so tough on all of us has really changed the way we need to look at politics, the way we need to look at elections, and most importantly, the way that we need to look at governing. And so when I think about the economy that Ontarians will want to see built on the other side of this pandemic, an economy where, yes, we are productive, where, yes, we create incredible wealth and prosperity, that wealth and prosperity is broadly and fairly shared, that families that work harder each and every single month, each and every single year, will no longer fall further and further behind. That's the kind of economy where people can thrive, where they can have real opportunity, and where they can have dignity, and rediscover that work-life integration or that work-life balance that has been missing for far too long in this province. So I'm really thrilled that Stephanie has stepped forward. She is already, showing and making her mark. She will be formally nominated later today. Absolutely thrilled that she's joining our team. And I know, because I know the hardworking families of Don Valley West are looking for the kind of leadership that they've been able to rely upon locally for the last number of years. I know that Stephanie will work harder than one can imagine to make sure that the people of Don Valley West have a true champion at Queen's Park who's in this for the right reasons. She's in it for them, for the people who need that voice at Queen's Park. And Stephanie, I just want to say right here on the record how grateful I am to you and to your family that you are taking this on. And I'm looking forward to hearing from you this morning, and I'm looking forward to working closely with you in the months and years ahead. Stephanie, over to you.
Good morning. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you for those kind remarks and kind introduction. I'm very excited to be the nominee for Don Valley West. This riding is my home. It's where I've built my life. It's where I've raised my kids, and it's where I've chosen to put my name forward to try and make a difference at this critical moment for the province, which I do care about deeply. As Stephen mentioned, I have spent my career in finance, working to understand the numbers, figuring out what investments are optimal. So I just thought, I know that I'm hard to hear. I'll try to speak up. I feel that I've spent my career in finance, trying to understand the numbers, figuring out what investments are optimal for the best outcome and return. And right now, like Stephen said, I don't feel that Ontario is on the right path. I don't have confidence that the government is making decisions in the best interest of the riding or the province. And I think this is a very important moment for our province and for our future. And I'm proud to stand up and try to bring innovative, creative solutions to the issues and to get us back on the right track and the right path. I want Ontario to invest in our kids' education. I want to make sure that Ontario, everyone has opportunity to maximize their potential in their work and in their chosen path, and to really tap into that potential for the people of Ontario and for our economy. I think there's a lot more to do on that front to maximize our potential when it comes to our education system, when it comes to creating opportunities for people, to development, to housing, and to the way we build a greener economy. And I think I can contribute to that. So that's why I'm so excited about it. I want to make sure we're not sacrificing our long-term prosperity for short-term promises. And I really look forward to being part of the conversation, and I look forward to fighting for the people of Don Valley West, to continue the important legacy of Kathleen Wynne, who I have a great deal of respect for. This party, I think, is showing the way when it comes to women in leadership and demonstrating that women candidates have the experience, the expertise, and the passion to help move this province forward.
Okay, with that, we're going to start taking some questions. A reminder to everyone on the line, if you have any questions, please write to the chat and please state who you would like to ask the question to. The first question is from Laura Stone from the Globe and Mail.
Hi there. My question's for, hi there. Stephen, I wanted to ask you about the process for nominating Ms. Bowman. There's some concerns from Liberals within the riding that this wasn't a fair and open, that it was designated a women-only riding without notifying the search committee, for instance. And there are some people within the riding who say that they were cast aside essentially so you could appoint her. Can you please respond to these allegations?
Well, look, you guys have heard me say this many times before. You know, I've been around the party for now more than 3 decades. I've been involved in nomination campaigns. I've managed nomination campaigns. I know that from time to time it can be a bit of a tough process, and I don't think I've ever been involved in a nomination process where there hasn't been at least some individual who's felt it's felt that the result's not what they wanted, and therefore they want to speak out. And that's part of democracy, and our party is very democratic and very open when it comes to all aspects of how we arrive at decisions. You know, I also announced prior to July 1st of 2020, I think it was 2020, I've lost track of time with this pandemic. Before we started nominating candidates, we announced after consultation with the party that we were going to be updating the nomination rules of procedure to include a new measure, because I made an ironclad commitment during my leadership run, which I've stuck by, that at least 50% of our candidates would be female in this election. We made a decision to go forward with a new tool left to our nominations commissioner to declare plans for ridings women only, meaning that only women would be able to run. That's what we've chosen to do in Don Valley West. It's in keeping with the rules. I know there are individuals who perhaps might have wanted to seek the nomination in Don Valley West who wouldn't have met that criterion, but that's the decision that we made. It's a really important thing to me as I think about the kind of representation that we need at Queen's Park, for us as a party to not just talk the talk, but walk the walk. And so when I say that I want more women serving at Queen's Park, that has to start with the way that I lead the party that I'm leading. That's why we made the decision to give that power to the nominations commissioner. It's worked well. We are sitting with more than 50% of our candidates female right now. And Stephanie is an exceptional addition to that roster.
Follow-up?
So what does this mean for other diverse candidates of various backgrounds? There's an individual named Haman Mamdouhi, and I believe Ms. Bowman has spoken with him as well. So maybe you can respond as well. You haven't? Okay. So this person identifies as non-binary, a person of color, and they're looking for you know, I guess assurances that other communities such as the LGBTQ community will be represented in the candidacy. Yeah. So how do you respond to kind of those concerns that this is not
well, again, sorry, Laura. Sorry, you broke up there for a sec. I thought you'd finished. look, take a look at the roster of our candidates. It's on display on our website. You will see every aspect of Ontario's incredible diversity represented there. I'm really, really proud of the team that we put together. And I have to say, I don't know the individual that you referenced a second ago. I don't know any of the backstory there. What I do know is that our nominations commissioner, our central candidate search team, most of whom are volunteers working on this, all of the people that have been working hard now for many, many months to make sure that we have a team of candidates who are ready to govern on day one, who have the right kind of experience and that mix of skills and energy coming from different walks of life to make sure that the people of Ontario can have confidence that we know how to get the job done should we earn the right to govern next year. And so, as I said a second ago, Stephanie is an exceptional addition to our roster of candidates. You've all heard me talk about her background. It's right there on the record. But if you take the broader look at our roster of candidates, you will see there is representation there so far, representing or demonstrating that we take this notion that our team of candidates has to truly reflect Ontario very seriously. I take it very seriously. Our work is not done yet. We still have many more ridings on which to nominate, and I am quite confident. In fact, I know that by the time we get to the end of this process, our candidates will be amongst the most diverse and certainly the most talented and experienced group of women and men who have ever sought elected office here in this province. That might be good news for Ontario Liberals. It certainly is. But most of all, it's good news for the people of Ontario because we will represent the clearest and best alternative to the status quo that I don't think is good enough for the people of Ontario.
Okay, the next question is Emily Pelletier from Le Droit.
Hi.
Emily.
Hi there. Just before I ask my questions, just was wondering, does either of you speak French by any chance?
I don't, not well enough yet to answer questions, sorry.
My French is not bad, but it's a little bit rusty. I can probably understand your question, but I might not be able to answer in French fully.
Okay, no worries. And so just to follow up on Laura's question, the Don Valley West being exclusively for female candidates, excluding men of color, excluding non-binary candidates, isn't that discrimination to you?
No, look, let's be really clear about this. I spent close to a year running for leader of this party, and I made it abundantly clear to the members of my party that if elected, I would make sure that at least 50% of our candidates would be female. I also said that we would have better representation from younger candidates. I made a series of commitments. And from the time that I won the leadership in March of 2020 until we started nominating candidates in July of 2020, we worked hard as a party within our executive council, talking to our riding associations right across this province to make sure they understood that those words that I articulated during my leadership campaign were not empty rhetoric. They were not promises that I was making to just tactically win a race and then I'd forget about them. They weren't platitudes. I meant it. I'm serious about it. I've always been serious about it. It is really important to me, in particular as a dad who has 2 young daughters, that women, particularly young women in this province, see other women succeeding in positions of leadership in politics and beyond, in government and beyond. So there was no confusion within our party about what we were going to accomplish in this regard. That's why we took the steps to create the women-only option for the nominations commissioner. It's being used a handful of times during this process. It's being used today, or will be used today, in Don Valley West, and the results speak for themselves. We're at a point now where just a little bit more than 50% of our candidates are female, which I think is really exciting news. And I made this guarantee before, I'll make it again here today. When we are done and we've nominated 124 Ontario Liberal candidates, at least 50% of them will be female. And I think that's such an important accomplishment. It will be the first time in our party's history that we've managed to meet that goal after many, many years of trying.
My next question is for Mr. Del Duca. What do you have to say to some candidates who claim the party has lied to them, saying they were told that Ms. Bowman was the only one out of all the candidates who sent her candidate documents in due time, when they say, in fact, they followed all proper steps, they have proof, and they're saying that this was the reason given to them and not the fact that the writing was for female only?
So look, I said this in my answer to Laura. I've been around this stuff for a very long period of time. I would recommend, and I say this because what you're telling me right now is something that you hear from time to time when people want to come forward, when they have ambitions to serve and seek elected office, and the outcome doesn't turn out the way they want it to. I know it's disappointing. I've managed nomination campaigns to be on the losing side, to not have the opportunity to be successful for a variety of reasons. I know it can feel like a person's being shut out, but I would also highly recommend that we all take great care to not presume that allegations and accusations equal truth, because this process can be tough on a lot of different people, and that's not exclusive to Don Valley West. It's a general comment about internal party nominations, and I say this from a lot of experience in this regard. We made it very clear from the outset of this process, prior to starting to nominate candidates, that the measures, the rules, and the mechanisms that we have invested in our nominations commissioner would be used in order to make sure that we delivered the outcome that I committed to. Because again, I believe you got to walk the walk, not just talk the talk. And so Stephanie is a phenomenal candidate. She has lived in Don Valley West with her family for more than 2 decades. She brings all of the skills, the talent, and the experience to help Ontario Liberals demonstrate clearly that we will form a government, should we win next year's election, that understands how to manage the economy, that understands the economy needs to provide real dignity and real opportunity for people right across this province, and that we are ready to start that work, that important work, in the aftermath of what we've seen these past few years from Doug Ford. We're ready to start that work on day one.
Okay, the next question is from Alan Hale from Queen's Park Today. And just a reminder to everyone on the line to please direct your questions to whoever you'd like to answer.
Hi there. It's a question for Mr. Del Duca. What does it say about the party that you can't get to the 50% female goal that you're looking for without sort of dictating to constituency associations about who they're allowed to choose for this?
Well, Alan, I think in 2018, our party hit 44 or 45% female candidates. I don't know the numbers off the top of my head for 2014. I've been around the party for quite some time. It's been an evolution. We have been talking within our party and more broadly about the legislature itself. We have all, not just Liberals, we have all been talking about the need to make sure that more women are elected, that they feel comfortable stepping forward to run, that they have a welcoming opportunity to run, that they are supported in their desire to run, and that they not only win nominations, but they become MPPs. I made a decision while running for leader. Again, I want to stress, as a dad with 2 young daughters, who I don't ever want to think that they can't achieve whatever they set their mind to, because we have systems in place that have built up through many, many years that whether inadvertently or by design discourage them to seek elected office. It's got to change. Things have to change. So we have made very strong incremental progress in this regard as Ontario Liberals prior to this year, but I made the decision while running for leader. This was an essential part of my platform, and you will all know I received an extremely strong mandate from Ontario Liberals in March of 2020 to go forward with what I campaigned on, and that's what I'm doing, which I think is a really important thing to tell the people of Ontario, a really important signal to send, that as a leader, when I make a commitment, you can trust that I'm going to follow through on that commitment, that my words are not empty rhetoric, that I'm quite serious about making things better for every part of Ontario and for everyone in Ontario, including women and their desire to seek elected office. And I'm not going to shy away from continuing to do that.
Follow up?
Yeah. Obviously Ms. Bowman is a very highly qualified candidate, but the NDP is running another star candidate as well, Erwin Ellman. How much did finding someone who can go up against Ellman factor into this decision?
Well, I mean, the nomination process and everything that candidates need to go through takes quite some time. It's not something that happens overnight. I understand the NDP announced their candidate just a handful of days. I can assure all of you that we have not pulled this together in the last few days, that Stephanie, like every woman and man who comes forward to express an interest in seeking an Ontario Liberal Party nomination, goes through a rigorous vetting process that takes time. So that process is unfolded. We've arrived at the place where we are today, where later this evening, Stephanie will be nominated as the Ontario Liberal Party candidate. And I know the other three parties, the other three main parties, will have their candidates on the ballot come next spring. And the really awesome thing about democracy is the people of Don Valley West will get to decide who they want to be their champion at Queen's Park, to follow in and to pick up the great legacy of their existing MPP, Kathleen Wynne, who has served that community with distinction for now 18 years. And I have great confidence that the people of Don Valley West will see in Stephanie someone who will continue that kind of representation, and she will be elected on June the 2nd of next year.
Okay, the next question is from Richard Southern from 680 News. And just a reminder to the reporters who have joined since we started to please raise your hand and I will add you to the queue for a question.
Hi, Stephen. Good morning. Wanted to ask you about the situation regarding Lisa McLeod calling this meeting of restaurateurs and then not showing up to the meeting. What do you make of that? And what do you think should be done about this restaurant capacity issue, Stephen?
Well, so, with respect to the first part of your question, I don't know all of the details, but I would say that after what restaurant owners and those who work in restaurants have gone through over the last 19 months, it is absolutely, it's ridiculous. It's contemptuous for a minister to set up a meeting if that's what took place and then to cancel the meeting when I'm sure the restaurant owners or the representatives would have only been looking for a genuine opportunity to make their voices heard. That's to me, that must be incredibly discouraging for them. And it must give them a sense, as they probably have seen throughout this pandemic, that they're not getting a fair shake from the current provincial government. I think a lot of us were scratching our heads a few days ago when the government announced that they would let certain kinds of venues go back to full capacity, but did not make it clear about why they weren't going to provide that same opportunity for restaurants and other venues that really have been suffering for so long. And I think it's okay for governments to make tough decisions, but I think you have to back up those decisions when you're speaking publicly about them and provide the evidence and provide the data and make sure people can have confidence in your decisions. This last one, not the first time, I fear it won't be the last time, is a real head scratcher. I don't think it makes sense to allow full capacity back into, Scotiabank Arena, but not let an individual restaurant owner do what they need to do to survive. So I'd love to see the evidence. I'd love to see the data. Most importantly, though, when you're elected to serve and you're in a position of leadership like a minister, and in particular, when you agree to set up a meeting or schedule an opportunity for that kind of discussion, you got to follow through. Otherwise, people don't have confidence that you're interested in their plight. And that's a real serious problem here.
Stephen, obviously there's a real anger out there among restaurants right now. Some of them, I know there's been suggestions, some of my colleagues in the media gallery have had interviews with people saying, there might be some civil disobedience going on where they might allow more people than they're legally allowed to inside. I mean, would you support something like that? Because they're so angry and they feel so hurt right now, Stephen.
Listen, I understand the anger. I certainly understand the frustration and the anxiety they have. Who couldn't understand that, given what they've gone through these past 19 months? I'd highly recommend, though, that they don't break the rules. That doesn't serve anyone's interest. I understand that occasionally people feel the need when they've got no other choice to engage in forms of peaceful protest. And so I get that completely, but I would strongly urge the minister and the premier and this provincial government, and I'd be happy to help in this regard. I'm quite certain members of the other two opposition parties would be willing to help as well. There's nothing wrong with the conversation. There's nothing wrong with collaboration and trying to figure out, what does the evidence really show? What does the data really show? And can we permit restaurants and other venues to get the same kind of treatment that we see from large sporting venues, for example? And by the way, Richard, this is not, as you all know, this is not the first time during this pandemic where there's been a real split in how different sectors of the economy have been treated. We saw many months ago, big box retailers allowed to stay open for months with no restrictions, while main streets, mom and pop operations, and small businesses generally were padlocked and closed and shut down, which I think has made a tough situation even worse. So I'd strongly urge Doug Ford and his ministers, do the right thing. Keep the conversation going, show the evidence, show the data, and let's collectively work together to try to make sure that restaurants, gyms, and other places of business, small business in particular, can survive and can thrive.
Okay, and there are no other questions on the line. Thank you.
Terrific. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.